Good day and welcome to another episode of Bucket List Living with Brad Norwood. I'm your host, Brad Norwood, and with me today, a major leaguer himself. You know, I joked with you, Andy, before we're talking, I should be on your podcast instead of mine. Ladies
Come on
and gentlemen,
now.
welcome Andy Neary.
Thank you, Brad. I'm excited to be on here. It's funny. I'm laughing. I'm looking down. People might be listening in, but we're doing the video too. I wear baseball shirts for branding, and I'm wearing like an old school Padres shirt right now. So, no, man, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation.
I love it and I'm honored. Thank you for your time that you'll be here. I want to ask you, Andy, you've got a great story, and I just want to ask you to share your story as far back as you can, in fact. And for those that know me personally, Andy's got a little side note. He knows where Toadsuck, Arkansas is. Okay?
Yes.
He's been to Conway, folks. Arkansas crowd, he's been to Conway. So, but Andy, if you don't mind, share your story and where you came from, how you started, and where you got to today, because I know you've got a great story.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear it.
Well, absolutely, Brad. You know, it's funny when I get asked that question, I'm like, here's the deal. I don't have a childhood story of like rags to riches. I don't have a broken childhood story. I was the definition of average as a child, meaning I had a good childhood. Like my parents were both teachers, great parents. I had a good upbringing. Now, when I look at my childhood, even all the way up, Brad, through age 20, early 30s, what I did struggle with in life was mindset, limiting mindset beliefs, whether it was around money, comparing myself to others constantly, fear of failure, self-worth. And I'll get into that a little bit as the pro athlete where that impacted me. But that's where I struggled the most. And so early on, I grew up in a baseball family. My dad was a college baseball player. He was a very, very successful high school baseball coach. And so I did have the fortunate opportunity to grow up in a family or a house where I had a good mentor for baseball. I was given all the knowledge, all the skills. So by the time I got to high school, I did definitely start creating opportunities to play baseball at the next level. And, in high school, going into my senior year, I only had one scholarship offer. I was Division II, Winona State University in Minnesota. But I had this aspiration that I wanted to play Division I baseball. And I share this story often in keynote talks where, going into my senior season into the playoffs, I had one last shot to quote unquote play bigger. Because in the playoffs, the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee coaching staff was there to watch me pitch, which was a Division I school in Wisconsin. And that night, that first round of the playoffs, my senior year, I really felt what it meant to step up and play big when the moment mattered. I pitched a one-hitter that night. It's a funny story. I actually literally gave up a hit on the first pitch of the game.
Oh,
and that was the only guy that got on. That was the only guy that got on the rest of the game. And so that night I got a call from the head coach at UWM, Jerry Augustine, former major leaguer himself. And I was offered a scholarship. So here I was on to Division I baseball at the NCAA level. And what was interesting, Brad, was the first 2 years of my college career was terrible. I focused too much in the weight room. I got too big to be as a pitcher, you don't want to be muscle bound. I got too big, and a lot of it was probably to overcompensate. I wasn't a big kid. My senior year in high school, I was 5'9". I weighed 145 pounds. So I wanted to put some muscle on. So here I am by the time my sophomore season came to an end. I was 5'9", 175 pounds, full of muscle, but now I had another problem. I was a terrible pitcher because of that. So freshman, sophomore season, my stats suffered. I got to the end of the sophomore season, and honestly, I wanted to quit. Either transfer, quit, just give it all up, which is a position a lot of people are in right now, right? And it was interesting because I often don't share this part of the story, but between my sophomore and junior seasons, I actually stopped playing baseball for 2 months. Normally that's a time when kids go off to summer leagues, college kids. I actually stopped playing for 2 months and slowly came back in. And then going into my junior season, I was named captain, which gave me that confidence back that I needed.
Yeah.
And I got back to working on the right things, lifting the appropriate way, and ended up having a fairly successful junior, senior seasons, which allowed me then to play at the next level, which was pitching in the Milwaukee Brewers organization. And that's where like the great stories end, Brad, because when I got to pro ball, I went back to the things that kind of affected me as a kid. Feeling I was average, comparing myself to everybody. I mean, think about in pro baseball, you are literally compared to everybody every day by stats.
Sure.
And you're competing with your teammates to get promoted. Coaches are competing to get promoted. Umpires are competing to get promoted. And so I allowed all that to affect me. And it's why my pro baseball career was so short.
Sure.
So my story in a nutshell was average sized kid, the definition of average, getting the chance to play professional baseball at a position where the average height is 6'3", I'm 5'9". Problem was when I got to the highest level, my mindset failed me and the rest is history.
Yeah. But at the same time, and we talk about this in the bucket list life plan all the time, the C stands for conquer a fear. And we talk about head trash and the mindset as you referred to. As negative as we can be to ourselves and the comparisons and putting ourselves down, the mindset has also propelled you on to bigger and better things, hasn't it? Haven't you been successful because of that mindset? I think you have.
Today, yes.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, though, is when I was out of baseball, I was still in my early 20s. My first, 12 years in business, Brad, sucked because I didn't fix the mindset. So here I was and I started in retirement planning, got into health insurance, and always in a sales type of position, right? Well, when you still battle the limiting mindset beliefs, self-worth, fear of money, focusing on losing, not what it would mean to win, constantly comparing yourself to your competition, you are never going to have success. And that's where I was still stuck at, again, for a good 10 to 12 years into my business career. So I would say, honestly, it wasn't until my mid-late 30s where I really okay, I need to go to work on this, my mindset, and that's what's changed everything for me.
Sure. And out of that, you're a public speaker. You do lots of public speaking. How many speeches and platforms do you have on the various events that you do?
When you say like different talks?
Different talks.
Okay. I would tell you what I pride myself on with my keynote speaking, and it's something I learned from my coach, who has now turned into a colleague and I'm a business partner. First of all, I got to tell you, my coach's name is Jerry Sandusky. So for the NCAA football fans out there, no, it's Jerry with a G, not a J, not the bad one. He's actually the play-by-play announcer for the Baltimore Ravens, if you want to look him up. Anyways, he is a super guy, but he taught me the power of being an adaptable keynote speaker. Meaning, when you're hired to do a talk, asking the simple question to the person looking to hire you, what is it your audience wants to learn? Mm-hmm. And having that ability, Brad, to adapt your talk to that, using your story and a message from your story that can adapt to that talk they want to hear, can make you a very wanted keynote speaker. And so what I've done with that coaching is, okay, my story is pro baseball. So how can I use my pro baseball career to teach lessons to various audiences to share a message from my career that can help them grow no matter what type of audience or where they are today? Yeah.
And you do a great job with that. I know for those of you listening that don't follow Andy Neary on LinkedIn, I told a guy that I was talking with today, you are probably in the top 5 of content producers that I follow.
Oh, wow. Thanks,
man. As far as just content value, you do so well at delivering your message in various forms. I love your Friday bullpens. Talk a little bit about your Friday bullpens.
Yeah. So that started out just as some fun, actually. Like, I don't know, when was it? February, March, maybe? Every Friday, I was like, heck, I'm just going to start doing what I call a bullpen session. Why do I call it a bullpen session? Well, as a pitcher, every week, especially if you were a starter, you had to have a bullpen session. And your bullpen session was your time to go in the bullpen with your pitching coach and work on anything you needed working on. So I was like, okay, that's what this is going to be about. It's going to be my Friday lesson to teach you what you need to be working on. So that morphed into, after about 10 of those episodes, which I literally just threw up on Zoom, I'm like, I need to start interviewing people around this. Well, that led to Tuesday interviews, followed by the Friday bullpen session. And now it's turned into the full-fledged podcast, Bullpen Sessions, which I've done now 31 episodes as of today. And so, yeah, man, you're doing the same thing with your podcast, Brad, the Bucket List. I mean, what a podcast is, and this is a good message for your audience on creating awareness, right? The best advice I ever heard about podcasting was from Gary Vaynerchuk. And he said, look at podcasting like, you remember the cool kid or the kid in high school who was kind of a dork, wasn't so cool, but he's the one who hosted the house parties every weekend because his parents were gone. So he allowed the cool kids to hang out with the cool kids, and then he became the cool kid. That's what podcasting is. It's a way of putting out more content to create awareness of your brand, but do it in a way where you get to highlight people like you are doing with me. Right. And you do with others. You let them highlight themselves. It's a perfect way to create awareness for your own brand.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, I had the mindset coming in before COVID. Actually started the podcast 1 week before COVID. And then it was like, wow, this is what, you know, we're stuck for sure at home, which I work from home anyway. What timing, right? What timing? So it's been great. But you talk about awareness. And I know that's a big thing that you speak on, aside from mindset. Couldn't be maybe a better day to have you on the show than the awareness that you're bringing, the Complete Game Mastermind. Tell us about that. Big news.
Yeah. So let me maybe take a step back, Brad, is, you know, with my coaching platform, here's what I believe in. If you want to win in business today, whether you own a small business, you're a W-2 employee selling for somebody, you have to create revenue. You first have to create awareness for your brand. You have to stand out today. There's too much noise. And if there's one thing COVID and the lockdown taught us, is if you don't have an online presence, you're irrelevant. Yep. But in order to have and create awareness, you have to have the right message targeted at the right audience. But most importantly, you can't do any of that if you don't have the right daily habits and rituals in place, meaning you are maximizing the productivity of your days and weeks. And so I build my coaching on those three premises. So what Complete Game Mastermind is a way to bring that teaching, that coaching to a different style of platform, which brings it's a 5-month program that brings the coaching in. But it also brings in community because we're doing it in a mastermind format. There's going to be 12 people that attend the mastermind. But most importantly, it's the accountability. I've been part of multiple masterminds in the last 5 years. And I think one of the biggest advantages to joining one is the accountability that the others in the room hold you to. And so I said, if I could bring that coaching platform of creating awareness with the right message and doing the right things every day to a mastermind format. Everybody's probably heard of the book of Think and Grow Rich, right? Mm-hmm. That's where the mastermind concept came from. It's now bringing it in a platform where you get to do that with 11 other high-level thinkers.
Sure. And is this open to everyone? Anybody can register as long as they're a small business owner, or they have to be in a certain area of business?
Yeah. I mean, the riches are in the niches, right? But I would tell you, I mean, if you're in a market or if you're in a position today where you have to grow your brand, and I would argue today, Brad, if you open your mouth, you have a brand.
Right.
It's for you. And so I think there's a lot of people out there. It goes back to the content. And I thank you for what you said about the top 5 content creators. That means a lot. Here's what I pride myself on with my content: consistency, persistency, and patience.
Yep.
Too many people today throw up one video on LinkedIn, it gets 2 likes, and they're like, I'm done. Or they post something and gets 1 negative comment and they're crippled. If you want to create awareness today, you have to be consistent with how you're showing up. You have to be persistent with what you're creating, but you have to give yourself the patience that no one is an overnight success with creating awareness. I tell people, Brad, when I coach, if you're coming to me for that silver bullet or that overnight hack on how to go win business tomorrow, you're going to waste your money.
Right.
It's about consistency, persistency, and patience. And so that's really what the mastermind is built for too, is like, hey, guys, this is what it's about. You want to create a long-term success path to grow your business, grow your revenue, grow your brand. It's for you. it really doesn't matter what position you're in, what business you work for, or who you work for.
Sure. Yeah. I talk to people that I coach in the Bucket List Life Plan about that all the time. I say, if you'll commit to this, if you'll sit down and be intentional right now and commit to this, I want you to think back 3 years to something you did 3 years ago, and it feels like yesterday, right? So now plan out. Let's plan out for 3 years, and it'll feel like tomorrow. Not going to happen tomorrow, but it feels like tomorrow when you can see it and really dream it. Isn't that powerful?
And I want to share this because I will tell you, this goes back to mindset problems. When I became a coach, which honestly was not that long ago, here's one of the first mindset limitations I dealt with. Who the hell am I to coach?
Right.
And I think most coaches go through that, the imposter syndrome, right? And what I realized, where I finally got the clarity of like, yes, I can coach, is when I realized this. When Amy and I moved out to Colorado 6 years ago, I was hired by a small insurance agency to be their only sales producer. They had no marketing plan, and I was in a market no one knew who I was. I was literally starting from scratch. That was the day I had to start building my personal brand and creating more awareness and do more sharing and teaching than anybody else. Now, over 6 years, it's been a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, a lot of changing of the message. But what I do with my coaching and specifically this mastermind is I'm going to teach you what took me 6 years. I don't think you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing today. Right. It's about sharing your message, the right message for the right audience, and doing it a lot. And I tell people this, the best marketing plan, Brad, with a crap message equals a crap message.
Yep.
So focus on the message first and the marketing will follow.
Absolutely. There's so many people when we talk about personal branding today that associate that with being an entrepreneur, a business owner, and or a coach. And I don't think they could be more wrong. You could work for anybody, but you've got to have a personal brand. In fact, as an owner of a company and the people that would work for me, I want them to have a personal brand that fits into what we do, so that when they come for bucket list coaching or incentive travel, they're not just looking for Brad Norwood. They're looking for whoever else works for the entity. Isn't a personal brand important no matter who you work for?
Absolutely. In fact, it just made me think about a podcast interview I did not too long ago that hasn't come out yet with a colleague of mine, Mary Henderson. The biggest mistake corporate America makes, or corporations around this world make, Brad, is they don't let their people be brands. Yeah. They just feel they're the brand and you go sell the mothership. And Mary, it just hit me. Mary told a story because she ran a sales team for a large corporation in Australia years ago. And she said the first thing she did when she went in, she said, by the way, I'm going to help each and every one of these sales reps create a brand for themselves. And they're like, no, you're not. She's like, yes, I am. And I've got the numbers wrong. What she took sales for that organization from again, like 40 million to 140 million was insane. And she said it was because of one thing. We let the reps create personal brands, and the rest is history.
That's exactly right. Ask people what they want. They'll tell you what they want, and they'll always remember how you made them feel. That's the most important message that we preach in our coaching business and in the incentive travel business is just ask them what they want, and then they'll remember how you made them feel. So,
well, and that's a great point, because I go back to what I said earlier about the speaking. If you just ask the event planner what they want, they just gave you the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that simple. Yet we make it so difficult, don't we? And a lot because of the mindset and the head trash that we allow in. So, hey, I've enjoyed our time. We're coming up on our hard stop time. I greatly appreciate you making the time to be on the show. I've got to ask you, though, we ask every guest, according to their bucket list, what is one thing today you're being intentional about?
Man, you're hitting me on a tough one, because I had a lot of podcast interviews that I did myself today. What am I being intentional about? You know what? Amy and I, as little as this sounds, Brad, we are really focused right now on mandatory family walks every night with our dog. Yeah. And I know that sounds simple, but it being intentional about getting that done. And honestly, one thing I'm focused on big time right now, because I've been terrible at it, is designing my business around my life. So tomorrow I'm hoping to take time to go do a little paddleboarding in the afternoon, because that's why we designed this business, right?
There you go. That's it.
And I want to say this. Can I say one more thing? Because I've been waiting to say this all day, because you're outside of Fayetteville, which means there's probably a lot of Razorback fans listening in, right?
Absolutely.
I have to share this. It might go bad, but I don't care. Most of you didn't hear me. I don't know if I shared this. I grew up in Wisconsin most of my life. So there's, besides visiting Conway as a kid in an AAU tournament, there's one other thing this audience and myself have in common. We don't like Brett Bielema.
Amen. 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 He's actually a good guy, but
I know.
Coach moved. Yeah. That's okay.
We laugh. We laugh because when he left Wisconsin, comment he made in the press conference was, what did he say? I'm going to the SEC to win national titles. And we're like, good luck.
Yeah. And all we heard was he had won 3 Rose Bowls, been in 3 Rose Bowls,
I hope that made me connect with your audience, Brad.
Absolutely did. And if it didn't, where can they find you, Andy, and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Couple things. Number one, LinkedIn. You reference LinkedIn. That's probably the platform I'm on the most. Just look up Andy Neary. AndyNeary.com is my website. And if they want to listen in, like I said, I've got the Bullpen Sessions podcast out there, Bullpen Sessions with Andy Neary. So some great interviews and messages on that as well.
That's great. Again, Andy, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Brad. This is great.
Best of luck to you, taking time out of your life to spend time on your life, especially tomorrow as you go paddleboarding and get out in beautiful Fort Collins. There's a connection there too. There's a lot of Norwoods in Fort Collins.
That's
and
awesome.
Most of them are my relation. So if you see any of those, mainly down Old Town Fort Collins, probably where you find them, say hi to them for
Sounds
me.
Good.
But again, appreciate you being on the show. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to those of you that have watched. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's listed below. And remember, a bucket list life is a life worth living. Have a great day.